Welcome to the Pineapple Perspective with your host, yours truly, Troy Hooper. This show is always sponsored by Pepper Lunch Restaurants, pepperlunchrestaurants.com. We love to get together and have conversations with hospitality icons, people in the biz on the ground. They know what's going on, and this is going to be no exception. And I'm actually really excited for this show because we have a gentleman on today that I don't know that well. We get to say hi, shake hands, see each other in passing at various events. I've listened to him speak, seen him on other podcasts, but I like that I get to talk to people I know really well because we can get deep. And I like talking to people I don't know really well because I can learn something along with you guys. I think today is no exception. We are going to all learn something from this industry veteran for sure. Rob Ertmann from Mo Betta's, welcome to the Pineapple Perspective.
Thanks, Troy. Glad to be here. I think you might have talked me up a little bit more than I think I am, but glad to be joining you today and to your point, getting to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, and look, I'm a good hype man. If you ever need somebody to bring you up on stage, you just put a few whispers in my ear, and I'll get the crowd excited. And hopefully, this crowd's excited listening today.
Beautiful.
Rob, the way we start every show before we really get to know you is we ask every one of our guests, what does hospitality mean to you?
Yeah, look, I think first and foremost in my mind, it's the fundamentals of the restaurant, which is that old QSC acronym of quality, service, and cleanliness. And I think what's important to me about hospitality within that is consistency. And so consistently great quality products, consistent great service, and consistently clean, I think is just flat out table stakes. But I think if you are up and down, where sometimes customers come and have a great experience and the next time they have a mediocre or poor, I just don't think they can trust you. And I think this industry is all about providing that dependable experience. I know that's where I personally go out to eat and go out to do different experiences, is when I know what I'm going to get. Usually I'm of course seeking out those I'm going to get a great experience.
I love the C word, consistency. It is the key. I think you're absolutely right. Nobody has ever said to me in all the years I've been asking this question, nobody's ever said cleanliness, but I am a bathroom cleanliness nut. If I go to the bathroom and it's forget disgusting. If it's just obviously not thought about or cared about, boy, I think operators just miss the boat on understanding what that says to the guests. That, oh, if I can't maintain pride in my bathroom, what, boy, and then when you go to some nice bathrooms, I was in a bathroom yesterday in Austin, Texas. I wanted to stay in there. It was like a lounge. It was amazing.
My wife and I walked out of a restaurant, actually, unfortunately, last weekend, and it was the smell. And it's probably because I'm in the industry, and I think we all probably know, unfortunately, some of the not good smells. And we walked in, and I smelled that and said, we're not going to choose to eat here. It's not a place we've actually normally gone. It was going to be a first visit for us, and we unfortunately walked out and went and found a different spot. So yeah, it's important to me as well.
I don't do this, listeners. Please don't do what I'm about to tell you. I know two gentlemen in this industry that not like CEOs or something, but two guys I know in the hospitality industry have both told me, and they're kind of ADD, so I get it. But they have this habit. When they go to a restaurant for the first time, it's like not like a chain brand, but like if they go to a one-off family type neighborhood casual restaurant or something, they go to a restaurant for the first time, they sit down, they order water, and they say, "Oh, we need a few minutes." And then the gentleman, in both cases, excuses himself to go to the bathroom. And okay, that's normal. They go check out the bathroom. If it's clean, great. No, and I've had two people independently tell me they do this, so it's crazy. They actually intentionally walk into the kitchen pretending to look for the bathroom, and they take that 10-second scan.
Oh boy.
And they say, in that 10-second scan, I just look at the line, I look over the line, I look at the server station, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I was looking for the bathroom." And then they go to the bathroom. Of course, they look at the bathroom too, but they literally take a mental snapshot of the kitchen and decide whether they're staying or not. I was like, man, that is
something.
That's some gumption.
That is gumption. And sadly, again, being in this industry, I think those of us that have at least been doing it long enough, sadly, 10 seconds is probably all we need to get that mental snapshot of how that restaurant's operating. But
oh man,
I won't say I've ever been that bold. I don't walk into the back of any places, but
I've not been that bold, but I admire those who have that level of concern and commitment. I think I do my evaluating from the table and the staff and the smells, as you say, the sights of does the lamp have a lot of dust on it, but anyway, we've all got our tricks and we've all got our hangups and the things that we worry about.
Yeah, my team can tell you I have plenty of my own little quirks and things they know to watch out for when I walk in. So
I mean, cleanliness is everything, man. I'm right there with you. Rob, let's tell the audience a little bit about who you are, where you come from. You've been in this industry 25 plus years. You've cut your teeth on some major brands we all know well. You've come up through the ranks. Give a little bio and catch the audience up on who Rob Ertmann is.
Yeah, you bet. To your point, I've been in this industry for the entirety of my career. Really, I'd say cut my teeth after kind of the typical high school jobs and college jobs. Cut my teeth at Einstein Noah Restaurant Group, or Einstein Brothers Bagels now. I think it's called Bagel Brands now. But spent a lot of my career there, from assistant manager all the way up to VP of Ops before venturing off to Pete's Coffee out in California. Actually spent a couple of years at Phil's Coffee, which was an amazing experience. Loved that brand. Wished that they were here in Utah. And then actually moved here back to Utah. I actually grew up here in Utah, moved back here to Utah, and I'm so blessed that now I get the opportunity to lead the Mo Betta's brand, and really at a time of just some pretty phenomenal and really fun growth.
Rob, what's Mo Betta's for those people that have not had the great pleasure and privilege, like myself, to travel to Salt Lake a couple times a year and get to make the pilgrimage there? I had Mo Betta's twice in one day. Last year at Restaurantology by Savory Fund's event, not this year, but last year, I had it for lunch because I just wanted to try it and I had never
Yep.
been there yet. And then I went to Zach Oates' house for dinner. Those listening, a lot of you know Zach Oates, the founder and CEO of Ovation, but went to his house for dinner, spend time with his family and kids, and he ordered. He didn't tell me. He just said, "Hey, what don't you like?" I was like, "Dude, there's nothing you're gonna order unless it's spicy Indian food." And I get there and he ordered Mo Betta. So basically, all I ate for one entire day. But tell people what Mo Betta's is, please.
Well, don't worry. I have 4 boys, and I had it 3 times in the matter of 24 hours last weekend because they had soccer games and what have you. But yeah, Mo Betta's founded in 2008 by two brothers from the island of Oahu, and so really the food we make is based off of recipes that they grew up making. On the island, and it's really based in plate lunch. So plate lunch is typically it's rice, macaroni, salad, and then proteins. And we really specialize. A lot of it's chicken. You know, national pastime these days is eating chicken. But teriyaki chicken. We have some other grilled chickens: a katsu chicken, fried chicken, teriyaki steak, and then of course I'd call it a Hawaiian classic, which is really our pig, and or pulled pork for layman terms, we'll call it. And the menu is centered around that. We have spam musubi for anybody who's been to Hawaii and knows that. We have pog, which is a favorite beverage, but really centered around that plate lunch, which makes it super portable and filling, and one that for those protein lovers, you want a lot of protein and you want to get full, come to Mo Betta's.
And Rob, you've been there since 2021, CEO now. Some
Yep.
varied, cycle of a business, which is great. You got there at a certain time. I don't know how many stores. Tell us how many stores you had when you got there, but you're at 66 company-owned stores in 7 states today.
Yep.
The business was essentially incubated or scaled initially, or invested in for scaling by the Savory Fund, who you worked with for a number of years. It was sold last year. You're almost a year out from the acquisition. So you've kind of lived sort of multiple lives with this brand, or multiple iterations or scaling points. Talk a little bit about that, because I think that's interesting to a lot of people if they sort of are the founder of a 5 to 15 unit brand and are having these kinds of conversations with folks like a Savory Fund or an investment group. Maybe they're at 30 to 50 units and they're looking at growth capital versus equity transition. Talk from your seat what that's been like and what you've learned.
Yeah, no, look, so when I joined in 2021, we had 22 locations. We were really just here in Utah, and then we had 2 locations up in Idaho at the time. We've now scaled. We actually, since I last told you we were at 66, we actually opened our 68th location this morning up in Pocatello, Idaho. We're actually in 7 states, and so it's been a fun ride because we've tripled the brand in the 4 years that I've been here. And it has been a unique journey because actually Kimo and Kalani, our founders, will tell you when they partnered with Savory, they were at 6 units. And for them, they have a great brand. They had plenty of people trying to give them capital to grow. And Kimo especially will tell you they were looking at it going, we don't need money, we need help. These are two brothers that were driving the city bus on the island of Oahu before they moved here to Utah and opened up the first restaurant. And so that's where the Savory Fund actually was phenomenal for them, because they came in not only with capital to help grow, but all of the amazing expertise of their back of house team to do IT and payroll and construction and real estate and you name it. They helped with all that. And so then when I came on board in 2021, I really had a phenomenal operations team. In fact, our director of operations at the time is now our chief operating officer, John Conine. It was really that operations team and then myself. And then the fun part of coming on board at that time is not only were we growing restaurants to, like I said, up now to 68, and we'll continue to grow. We should be we'll be close to 75 by the end of the year. But I got to participate in building out our entire, back office support team. And so we went from really being, I'd call it, operated by Savory outside of the day-to-day operations of the restaurant to now completely independently operating out of our own, nice, beautiful office here that we get to participate in as we support all of our restaurants. And so that journey's been interesting because it's been one of really trying to figure out what do we need now versus what are we going to need later. And certainly my mindset, our board's mindset has been very much so, we want to fuel and fund our own growth with our own profits. And especially as you're doing that and growing at the rapid pace we are, it means we hired our first CFO of the brand last year. Clay Hansen's been with us for about a year and a half, but the first several years I was here, we didn't have a CFO. I had a controller. I certainly had the books clean and knew what was going on financially, but we weren't going to hire that high level horsepower until we absolutely needed it. And so we've really been spending diligent time figuring out what teams to add on and where to build that. And then conversely, how do we continue to invest in the rest of the brand as we grow units? And so that's been a fun challenge, but certainly one that's been a learning experience along the way as well.
That's awesome. Talk a little bit about you mentioned the founders, Kimo and his brother. What's their role today? How are they involved? I still see them at conferences. They're still wearing the Hawaiian shirts and representing the brand beautifully.
Yeah.
But yeah, just talk about the dynamics there. I mean, you're the CEO and running the business, but how does all that play out?
No, I am so lucky to have what I believe to be the best founders in this business. And I say that because they're very active in the business from, I would call it, from a cultural side of things. In fact, I told you we just opened up a restaurant today. Well, the last 2 days on Wednesday, we start off with a culture night where Kimo, Kalani, myself, our chief operating officer, actually get a chance to share with this new team what we're about and who we are and why the menu is the menu. And Kimo, Kalani come to all of those. And they spend time with the team. And then yesterday we do an event we call Friends in Ohana, which our goal is we're serving Hawaiian plate lunch. People don't know what that is. So we're trying to feed as many humans as we can. They come to those events as well, which for me is awesome because when a customer inherently will have somebody Polynesian want to challenge us on, are we authentic? Do we know what we're doing? And it's pretty easy when I get to go, well, actually, you know what? I can tell you about the brand, but let me introduce you to Kimo or Kalani, who grew up in Hawaii. And so they very much so do that. But then they also are a resource for me. And I love it because they'll let me bring up ideas that maybe challenge the status quo of who we are as a brand. But they also were quick to keep me on the straight and narrow and say, hey, like, I get why you might want to do that, but let's go back to the authenticity we're trying to provide our customers. And so culturally, authenticity wise, they're great. And then really just a good sounding board for me. So I wouldn't call it they're involved in the day-to-day as much as they're involved more in the strategic and helping just build this brand and keep some continuity to what we started out with store 1 and what we're trying to still bring at store 68 and beyond.
Look, that's a gift that I think people don't realize how important it is. If the founders are out, so to speak, after more than one equity event or exit, or they're sidelined, even worse in a lot of those cases, boy, a brand just sort of gets vanilla quick, doesn't it? Like you just lose the ethos, you lose the secret sauce that's just running the lifeblood of the brand. And when you talk about consistency, I get it. Look, at Pepper Lunch, we're an ethnic brand. We're Japanese teppanyaki for one. And the day I started, practically, we had sort of a sit down with a bunch of longtime executives at the brand. And they're like, Troy, what do you think we should do for Pepper Lunch in the US? Should we add mashed potatoes and broccoli? And should there be more steaks? Americans like steak and mashed potatoes. And I said, yes, they do, but not from a Japanese concept. They want to go to, right? They want to go to Texas Roadhouse or Ruth's Chris or whatever. Like, we don't need to compete with those guys. We need to distill this back down and stick close to the authenticity is really what matters. And I understand what those challenges are. And I'm glad you have that resource because I think it's incredible. And not only just, I mean, you're growing corporate, right? So today you have the great opportunity to live and breathe that and consistently deliver that with your staff. I'm in a franchise system where you're trying to translate that to new stakeholders and investors and owners, and get them to relive it, so to speak. So a little more challenging on that front, I think.
Well, and I think like, where it's come to life for us and where I think it's been really important to your point, like you're brand new as the CEO at, when you were brand new there, they kind of asked you what to do. And I've certainly got those and certainly gotten a lot of outside pressure, let's say to do Dole Whip, pineapple Dole Whip. If you're here on the mainland, what sounds like a good idea to add to a Hawaiian restaurant? Pineapple Dole Whip. Dole Whip was born in Disneyland. Like that's not, that's a great product. I love Dole Whip, but it's not Hawaiian. And so for our founders, it's good for them where early on they were able to educate me about pineapple and why pineapple shouldn't be a symbol for a Hawaiian restaurant and really educate us. And so we haven't done it. But on the flip side, I'll tell you like musubi is something that when I first came on, we talked about musubi because our customers were demanding musubi for years. And for Kimo Kalani, they're like, that's gas station food in Hawaii. We love musubi, but we're serving products that we would serve our guests, not that we would take them to the gas station. But on the flip side, as we went out and visited restaurants together, because we actually also do visits with them to restaurants very often, but every team member, all the customers are asking, why can't we have musubi? Why can't we have musubi? And that's where it's good for them to go like, okay, it is authentically Hawaiian. We can do it. We just need to get okay with the fact that it's not maybe what our original concept was, but it can be an appropriate evolution for us. And that's what I love about the partnership with them is they're willing to bend and flex when it makes sense versus Dole Whip is still that like kind of that.
Hold the line. They hold the line.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. All right, Rob, we know a little bit about who you are. We know what you're running. We got a lot of trust and authority in you now. The best part of this show is I like to have conversations with contemporaries like yourself and just talk about some of the things in the industry that might be able to pass through, pass down, share with the listeners who are pretty much everybody from across the gamut of our industry and leave some nuggets that hopefully can be helpful and usable in their business. Pre getting on this call, we talked a little bit about some of the concepts. Something I wanted to talk to you, and it's a great segue from the conversation we just started, is a little bit more about sort of menu engineering or simplicity of menu. And you had some specific thoughts around being careful about growth and creep of your menu, not just around authenticity, which you just shared, but I think a little more broader. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I look, I think it's been validated recently in the success of Chili's. Like you hear about everything that's going on with them and listening to them talk about how much they cut off the menu to really focus on quality and to simplify operations and procedures. And it's, as I hear that, to me, it just revalidates back to Kimo and Kalani, what they shared with me early days is, and I believe it wholeheartedly, simplicity has been a big key of how we've been able to grow so rapidly. I even think about the store we opened up this week, our training that goes into opening up that restaurant. We really focus on great prep folks that can make great mac salad and get our chicken marinated and different things. And then great grillers who can grill great product on the open flame. But by keeping the menu simple, when you talk about training the mass amount of team members that we're training, they really just have to figure out how to make a plate. Like, how do you get up, ask the customer what size they want, confirm they want white rice instead of brown rice and mac salad instead of vegetables, and then what proteins do you want? And they build the plate and away they go. And I think by keeping it focused on specialized positions that have to do the prep, and then translating that to easy training when it comes to everybody else, where they can focus on hospitality and service more than, okay, I've got to remember I've got to make this different product or make this recipe or do that. It's allowed us to put more energy into that customer experience. And so as I think about that, of course, you mentioned we went into this new partnership a little over a year ago, and they've been, look, Blue Marlin and Tribe, our new partners, combined with Savory, who's been involved. They've been awesome. But of course, everybody's got all these ideas. It'd be very easy for me to be like, okay, let's turn on that innovation flywheel and start adding all these new proteins and adding all these new sides. And we just start to make it more complex for our teams. It's harder for them to execute. Not to mention, you look at food cost. We have a pretty great margin profile. We're in the mid-20s when you get to store level EBITDA. A huge piece of that is our food costs and our labor model. And if we start to add all these different menus, not only are we going to generate waste that goes into preparing all these goods and trying to manage shelf life and maintain it, but we're going to add an inordinate amount of labor just to prepare it and make it. And we're going to have to add more team members to the line just so they can prepare customers' individual orders outside of the prep. And so I think a big secret to our success, again, leaning into what Chili's again is showing the industry, by keeping some things simplified and really focusing on what matters to the customer, I think you can win more than focusing on what's our next LTO or our next new menu innovation. And we've mentioned some of the brands I've been at. I've been at some brands where, that menu creep, you end up with a let's call it a core amount of products, and 5 years later you have 100 items and they're all selling like 1%. And in my mind, if something's only selling 1 to 1.5%, that's the first like snippet.
Gotta go.
It's not worth it. You're carrying extra SKUs and extra training and everything else. So I think it's been a big part of our success.
It's one of the biggest lifts to sit there and really analyze the menu mix and trends and how things are doing. But and it's very terrifying to cut things off a menu. I always use the sort of benchmark of, if I was the customer and this went away today, is there an alternative? Would I choose something else or would I leave? That's
Yes.
where I think you have an opportunity to really ask yourself that, how much does this really matter, right? Percentages and dollars matter, waste. One thing, I was just on a panel this week at another conference, and it was about profitability. And one of my contributions was, prep labor is the most expensive labor because you throw more at it, but your productivity goes down. You're less efficient. Like, you can't imagine how much time it takes to chop this, slice that, whatever,
Yeah.
right? And so if you take that one ingredient away, or you take that dish away, if the customer isn't going to miss it, or they will trade into an alternative, or you educate them so that they do that, do the math, not just on the product savings and the cost on that, not just on the waste or shrink, but also on the prep labor associated
Yeah.
with producing that, right? And I think a lot of operators just don't do that math. And then again, back to your point of consistency, it's very difficult to be consistent in product quality as you add things to the mix that have to all be handled and managed as well. So,
Well, and I even just think about organizational effort. A couple of years ago, we launched a chili, and it was this. And I know it sounds weird at Hawaiian. How does chili fit in it? It does. But we were spending all this time on, are the teams making the chili right? Is it produced at the right time? Is the right quality? And we started to look back and we're like, our whole focus right now is on this chili. And again, we're selling like 1.5% of the menu on chili. It's like, why aren't we continuing to focus on our chicken that we sell? 80% of our plates come with teriyaki chicken. Like, the math wasn't mathing on where we were spending our time, energy, and effort. And so that, I think, is another area that you just have to also keep in mind is, where's your
I like
focus?
that. We tend to focus on the things that we think have high value, but when you really evaluate it, you're really outsizing the effort on things that have lowest value. And I think that's kind of
Exactly.
common for sure. Rob, talk a little bit about culture. You don't triple a brand in 5 years or less. You don't transition through equity events and have consistency as you guys have had without really worrying about the who's on the team. And you talked a little bit about the top level executives and the ownership being so involved, but talk a little bit about culture and fit and how you really view that and its impact on your business.
Yeah, well, look, I think for me, first off, like, the most important role in this business is not me. It's the general manager. The general manager is everything in this business, because those are the folks that are leading the teams and making sure our customers are getting taken care of day in and day out. And for us, as we grew, I think one of the pitfalls we fell into early on is we were purely looking at resumes and trying to hire for experience. And sadly, when you get into that trap, and not to say that this is always the case, but you tend to find the people that are available with all that experience are the people that are struggling to keep a job at all these other restaurants. And so you bring in these folks that, for lack of a better term, become armchair quarterbacks. They love to sit in the office and not manage the business. And sure, on paper, they have all this experience, but culturally, just not a fit. And we struggled with that, and we had some pretty high turnover. And what myself and the team had to sit back and really think about is, who is the right fit on the team? And if we know who the right fit is, we can teach them all the other skills. And the other larger epiphany we had is, wait a minute, we have all these internal and amazing folks that we know who they are and what type of people they are. Why do we find all of these reasons why they're not ready for the next promotion? They're not ready to step into that role. And yet we're going to go do an half hour to maybe an hour and a half worth of interviews and hand somebody the keys to this, $1 million car and say, we think you can drive it, yet we don't know who they are as a person. And so we spent a lot of time really defining what we call the ideal team player at Mo' Bettahs, but what is the ideal team player here at Mo' Bettahs? What are those just intrinsic virtues that they all need to have? And if they truly have those things, let's identify that through the interview process. Let's identify that through our internal pipeline, because that's actually who we care the most about. And let's put the energy and effort into training them how to be great leaders, knowing that they already have those core things. So for us, it's 5 key things. We're a growing brand. You got to be hungry. If you're not hungry for change and growth, this is a very uncomfortable business to be in. And we thrive in that. We love it. You've got to be humble. Like, we're still learning. I'm no better than the frontline team member that's scooping a plate right now in the restaurant. I can learn from every single employee we have. And I love the things that they teach me, and vice versa. All of us need to have that mindset. But you also need to have enough confidence to say, there's also a role that I need to play. And when I need to stand up and be counted, be counted. So got to be hungry, got to be humble. And then one that can be a little bit polarizing is you got to be kind. And we differentiate kindness versus niceness. And to be nice, we say, if you're being nice, often you're not giving people the right feedback because you're worried they're going to hurt their feelings. But that's not kind, because how are they going to get better if you don't tell them both what they're doing well at and what they need to be opportunistic on? And so got to be humble, got to be hungry, got to be kind, got to be an energizer. We have a lot of fun here. If you're not adding to the energy and sucking it out of the business, then not going to work. And then the last one is selfless. And that's not that you have to give everything to Mobetas. That's not what we mean. But you need to give what you are focusing your time and energy on is for the others in the business. My time is spent on what am I doing for other people, not me thinking, what are they doing for me? And so we really had to galvanize that, teach our teams, and focus on these. If people have these skills and these virtues, that's who we want. And so interview questions designed after that. And then just a lot of time talking about as a team on how do we identify and see patterns and work towards that. And that's really helped us in the last couple of years get better leaders on the team and really help fulfill what I think a lot of us, our personal mission is to grow and develop talent in this industry and hopefully help people just like I've been helped to get where I'm at today.
Yeah, I love all of that. We literally just went through the redefining of our core values here at Pepper Lunch, and we're in the rollout phase right now. And hungry to grow is actually one of our 5 as well. We want people that want to push and that want to work hard and be proud of where we're trying to go, but be a team player in that process, right? And we have several others that somewhat mimic a little bit about what you said. So innovation is a big one for us as well. Is, innovation for us will come from within. It will come from ideas from the people in our teams, and our teams have to be willing to speak up and challenge us. Say to me, hey, I don't know if that's the most interesting thing we're doing. Like, whether it's chili or whatever, Dole Whip, right? Hey, no. And I'm real sensitive on the ethnic side, on the cultural side. I'm very sensitive, but luckily I have a lot of Japanese people to lean on to help me with that.
That helps. And for us, by the way, our values are actually Hawaiian values, but I think where this ideal team player model helped us is somewhat translated to where if I'm sitting down with a candidate and interviewing them, those 5 things I mentioned are a little bit easier to talk to than let me talk to you about Ho'okipa or about Pono or some of these, these other values we have. We link them to the team player model, but it allows us to have a little bit more of a translation to identify versus let's go straight into Hawaiian language and try to get you there before we talk about what the rest of it means.
Yeah, it's hard to resonate. You're learning a language and a culture and a system, and it gets a little fluffy, right? You need to keep it simple and make sure they understand. And then if they want to put a Hawaiian title to it, they can learn that later, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. Last question along the center of this conversation. You have been there through basically the tripling of the brand. Again, tripling a brand in 4 or 5 years is intense, especially when you're the operator, you're a corporately owned business where you're responsible for every single thing, top to bottom. Talk to folks, because I think a lot of people who listen to the show are young, smaller, ambitious brand founders or CEOs and teams. Talk a little bit about the pitfalls or what we call the potholes in the road along the way, some classic mistakes to avoid, and some things about how you looked at it. How did you guys do that? And yet probably enhance or improve upon your business rather than sort of have a lot of struggles along the way?
Yeah, well, look, I'm not going to tell you we haven't made plenty of mistakes, but we try to have an idea here that if we make a mistake, let's try to only do it once. We'll learn from it and get better. But I think part of it has been a big one that's been with us is our brand's been around for, over 17 years. We have to challenge ourselves as we continue to grow that just because this is the way we've always done it doesn't mean this is the way we need to do it going forward. In fact, we changed our whole grilling process of chicken earlier this year, because for a long time we've been butterflying our chicken out to the point that, quite frankly, I think it was getting a little bit dry and it wasn't as flavorful. And we were like, why are we still butterflying the chicken? We use thermometers. We want to make sure it's food safe and temp right. But if we don't butterfly it so thin, we actually get a better tasting chicken. And so that was one of those that, again, we had to challenge ourselves and say, why are we doing this? And should we continue to do this? And so I think that's a big one. As much as I said, the founders help keep me going down the right path. What I love about our founders, as I kind of hinted to, is we can challenge ourselves and say, are we doing this because it's truly a keystone to the brand? Or are we doing this just because we've always done it this way? And so I think checking yourself on that's really important. I think for us, as I mentioned before too, making the right hires when you need them. I have seen brands and been a part of brands where you hire too many people, you hire too many, let's call it high paid, highly compensated folks too early, and you end up spending all of your cash on headcount instead of being able to spend your cash on new restaurants and perfecting the business. And so I think that's been a big one we've just been trying to be conscious of. And again, we made pitfalls, yeah, but I think it's okay to look in the mirror and go, hey, we made the wrong call on this one. Time to make an about face and shift that. And that goes into other decisions as well, I think. And that's part of why we have that humble component of that ideal team player model. It's okay to say I made a bad decision. I'd rather admit it now and course correct it and get on the right path than dig my heels in and say, I can't admit to anybody that I made the wrong call. And I absolutely make bad calls. And I love that I have a team that's willing to call me on that. And because we only get better from that. And so that's been one we've definitely had to watch. Real estate, I think, really figuring out before you grow too big, where does your brand work and where doesn't? And again, same thing. We've made some bad decisions on real estate that have had some locations that aren't the greatest. And then we've tried to use that information to say, okay, this didn't work as well here, but this one really did work. How are we going to use that information to make better decisions? And I think, it's also one of those where you're a brand like us, you can get cocky and be like, we love this brand. We're so proud of this brand. We'll work anywhere. No, we won't. We won't. And that's okay to admit. We have plenty of places that we will work well at. But I think you have to get out of your own little bubble and listen to people and understand what's going to work for the brand and where are you going to work well. But I think all of that to boil down is just being humble, understanding that you don't know everything, take those learnings, change direction, and just when you make mistakes, don't dwell on them, just learn from them and move forward. Those have been the biggest ones for us.
Yeah, and I think you end up really putting yourself in a position of differentiation as an employer, both at the store level and at the corporate level, but among the peers and among your competition too, right? I mean,
Yep.
Bagel business was a competitive business. There's a lot of bagel brands and coffee brands today and chicken brands now. And how do you stand out, right? And I think when you look at the Chick-fil-A's or the In-N-Outs or some of the other brands out there that you can look at and say, my goodness, these guys really put the effort into the people and the process and the decisions, and they're maniacal about being really authentic to everything they do. But I love the humility piece because you have to be willing to fail fast, but it's not about failing fast. It's as much as it is about what you do next,
Yep.
right? And can you take a learning and actually apply it? And by the way, say, you know what? I was wrong, and now we're going to try your way. I was resistant against your way. I went against your way. Now we've learned that you were probably right. So let's go that
Yeah.
way. Or do we all have to gather up as a team and really think about a new way or a new solution to this problem? Because that didn't work, and that's okay. Yeah, I think those are all amazing tenets that are important to.
And the last thing I'd say to grow, you also can't devalue the cultural side. I mentioned we get out in the restaurants with our founders, not with our founders, and really try to make sure that we're getting close to the team. I love nothing more, by the way, than hopping on the line and working with the team and making plates. And it's a ton of fun. And I think our teams need to see that, because sitting in our office that I mentioned, that's not where the real magic happened. Even that chicken thing where we made a change, that didn't happen because we were all sitting around a boardroom table going, I wonder what we should do next. We were in a restaurant. A general manager actually brought the whole concept up, and we kind of all looked at each other, and one of our founders included, and said, yeah, why do we do this? And it sounds like there's a better way we need to explore. And that magic happens in the restaurant, and I think the teams, when they see that we're
all the
taking their
best ideas,
feedback,
period.
it all happens. Exactly. Everything good comes from inside the restaurant, not in a boardroom.
There's very little inspiration around a conference table. I'll just be honest with you. It tends to be a
For
little
sure.
bit more analytical and conversational. But no, you see it when you're out there. Why, I'll tell the audience, sit in a booth in the corner of your store for 3 or 4 hours. And why do I say for 3 or 4 hours? Because in 15 or 20 minutes, you're going to see what you want to see. You're going
Yeah.
to see what you're validating. Sit there long enough and you start to see trends, and you'll ask yourself, should we be queuing the line that way, or should we spread the kiosks a little further apart? Wow, that bathroom hallway's just a little dark. Should we look at just all those things, right? Or what are we missing, or what's sticking out? It's always a good exercise. Anecdotal data is great data. You don't have to have all the surveys and reviews and all the things we use are fantastic inputs. But sometimes just, oh, by the way, talk to the guest.
Yes.
If I'm in a store, I walk up and I say, "Can I have a moment of your time? I happen to be the CEO, but I just have a question. I'm curious." And I use a real world, like their dish, or that there's four people sitting there, and like, who are they and why are they together, and what brought them here to get together? And I'm not just talking about the food or the experience, or did you enjoy your no. I actually hand them all a free meal card and say, "Can I buy a few minutes of your time? I'm just curious about a couple things." And I'll just ask different questions to different tables and just be like, let's get the truth here. The truth is
Yeah.
sitting at the table, and they want to tell you, by the way. Employees want to tell you, like your GM did. They want to
Yep.
tell you. You just have to make it okay and available
Yeah.
and open the door, right? So
No, and
that's
that's
pretty
well, that's where, to your exact point, whether you're sitting talking with customers or, like I said, I like to work alongside the team. The amount of feedback you get when you start rolling up your sleeves and working alongside them, not just standing in front of them and you're scaring them because of your title,
yeah.
and they don't really want to tell you the truth for whatever reason because they're worried what's going to happen. But you start to all of a sudden work with them, and amazing things start to come out of their mouths that you can really learn from and improve the business. 100%.
Hey, listen, we have a group of stores that has an unusual number of left-handed employees. I'm not joking. I am not joking.
Interesting.
And our country GM for that country came to us and said, I have this issue. The ladle we use to scoop the corn is a right-handed ladle. And I went, excuse me? And then I realized it has a spout and it is a right-handed ladle. I didn't realize.
Interesting.
So we were having portion control issues with left-handed employees on our corn. And like, you wouldn't believe this. And they brought it up the chain and said, guys, I know we're super specific about our small wares and we have proprietary sourced materials and all this, but we need a left-handed ladle. And
Yeah.
what? I
Yeah.
I literally was one of the people like, excuse me, what are we're talking about? What's
Yeah.
that? And then it's just I'm a right-handed guy.
Yeah.
I don't
I
have
wouldn't have
issues.
even I wouldn't have even thought about that either. I'm right-handed. My wife's actually left-handed, but
So now I'm
yeah,
like, what else is
amazing.
left-handed in our store? Like, can you
Yeah,
operate everything left-handed? And if you can't, how do we figure that out? Like
that's
that's
incredible.
an extreme example. Like, I've been in this business 33 years. Except for sitting at a booth with a left-handed person and everybody deciding where they're sitting so the left-handed person isn't elbowing you in the face. That's the only left-handed consideration I've ever had, and I feel bad about that. But now it's like that makes you open your mind to what else, right? And like you said, working on the line, you'll learn very quickly that this cute idea about where to put this or where that has to be mounted or where that printer prints from or where that item is on the make line, and you're making people pivot and your back hurts after 15 minutes. You're like, well, if my back hurts after 15 minutes, what about these people doing this for hours at a time? Can we adjust how we work this out? All those things I think are important for leaders like yourself and myself to be humble enough to put ourselves in those positions and learn from
Yeah,
others is what is the best opportunity we have.
agree 100%.
Rob, it's been an awesome conversation. Let's wrap this up with a couple of things. One, what's new? What's happening? What's the trajectory? What should we expect from Mobetta's? What's going to be hitting the news wire in the next few months or whatnot about Mobetta's?
Yeah, I think the biggest news is just continued growth. I mean, exciting time for us as we're not trying to get this rocket ship to slow down anytime soon. So just continue to grow and build. And so I think as you watch us the next year or 2 years, you're going to continue to just hear about us adding new units and continue to grow this brand. And I say we triple it. Let's see if we can double it from where we even started this year at. So that's what we're focused on. And again, we're not a company built on innovation and all these new products and different things, but I hope you'll continue to hear more stories just about where we're finding ways to up the customer experience as we also add add more restaurants and really share what Hawaiian plate lunch and what the Hawaiian culture is with more and more of the mainland U.S.
There's a lot of white space for people to discover and enjoy Mobetta's 2 and 3 times in 24 hours, like you and I both have, as we've talked about. My last question, I sometimes come up with fun ones. They're naturally inspired. So I notice for those that aren't listening and might be watching on YouTube, you'll see the surfboard in the background. For those of you that are hearing this on audio, there's a surfboard in the background. Rob, do you surf?
I do not surf, actually. I will tell you that is my board from, way back in the day. I had for a short period of time, a clothing store that we had boards. So that's actually the one and only board that's in this office or in our restaurants that's not sourced from Hawaii. But I have tried surfing, but there's no way I'm going to tell you I surf because I'm no good at it. And I wouldn't qualify myself with the skill of a real surfer.
Yeah, I held on to a surfboard for many years. I don't know if I thought it made me feel cool to have one, but I'm 6'2". I'm not. I used to be very athletic. I'm a bit overweight, and I from time to time try to jump on a surfboard and have realized that's a lot of athleticism I don't have these days. So right there with not
you and me. Well, that's more a memento of a business I had that I had some good lessons in, and I like to keep little things to keep myself thinking the right track. But I've got some cooler boards.
We're surrounded by them, right?
Exactly.
Well, that's a very fitting one given the concept that you're leading. So
yes,
makes sense. It just makes general sense. Good stuff. Rob Ertmann, Mobetta's CEO, growing 66 stores and moving fast in 7 states and beyond. If you're anywhere near one, seek it out, check it out. The quality is incredible. The people are amazing. It's so good, you might find yourself having it more than once in one day intentionally. Great to have you on the Pineapple Perspective. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Troy. Appreciate it. Great to be here.
Thank you for listening to the Pineapple Perspective. If you loved today's episode, leave a review and a 5-star rating. I look forward to welcoming you back next time.